They wait until something external validates them. But that's not how it works. You don't wait for a result to feel like a winner. You create results because you act like one. The way you show up in the small hours, the way you lead yourself before anyone else sees it, the way you dominate the unseen hours, those are the moments that define whether you win the day or let it slip through your fingers. It's not magic, it's not mystery, it's structure, discipline, repetition. You win the day by building it from the ground up, by installing the rules, not someone else's rules, yours. Rules that remind you who you are, rules that hold you accountable, rules that give you power when you don't feel like it, rules that do not change when your mood does. Because if you don't live by rules, you live by reaction. You let the noise control your focus. You let emotions control your discipline. You let other people's energy leak into your purpose, and you drift. You fall out of rhythm. You forget what you said you were going to build. Every day, life will try to pull you off course. Distractions, comfort, resistance, self-doubt, they all show up. And if you don't have a standard to return to, if you don't have a core set of rules that anchor you, it's too easy to slip. You don't notice it at first. One missed habit, one delayed task, one compromise, and then another, and then another. And soon you've lost the day. Winning the day doesn't mean everything goes right. It doesn't mean you feel perfect. It doesn't mean the conditions are ideal. It means that no matter what comes at you, you show up the same way, with precision, with intention, with command. That's how you stack wins. That's how you build confidence. That's how you train your nervous system to expect momentum, not as a surprise, but as your default. You don't need to overhaul your life to win the day. You need to make a few decisions, install a few non-negotiables, and refuse to break them. These rules are not complicated. They are simple, but they are not optional. And the more consistently you follow them, the more powerful you become. Because discipline compounds, focus compounds, integrity compounds. You build your day with decisions. You reinforce it with habits. You secure it with standards. And once that system is in place, your energy stops leaking. Your clarity sharpens. Your execution speeds up. And your confidence catches up to your potential. That's how you win. Not someday, but now. Not when life feels perfect, but when you decide to lead it regardless. The first rule to win every day is simple. Own the morning, or the day owns you. The tone of your day is set before the world even touches you, before a single phone call, before a single email, before anything external reaches you. Your internal system is either grounded or exposed. You don't start your day by reacting, you start by commanding. If you begin the day in chaos, everything that follows will echo that noise. If your first moments are rushed, distracted, aimless, you've already lost your edge. You've already surrendered control. You've already told your nervous system, we're not in charge here. And that pattern will continue. The first move of the day belongs to you, or it belongs to your excuses. It belongs to your clarity or your confusion. It belongs to your standard or your cravings. And once that door is open, your behavior will follow it. That's why this isn't just about habits, it's about signal. Every action sends a message. So you don't wake up and turn on the TV. You don't wake up to stay in bed. You don't start the day on defense. You start it on offense, with stillness, with breath, with decision. You get up when you said you would. You don't negotiate with the alarm clock. You don't delay your first win. Discipline starts in that moment. That 1 second where comfort begs for one more minute. You override it. You stand up. Not because it's easy, but because that's your first rep. That's your first signal to your body that we move when we said we would. We don't wait for motivation. We don't need to feel perfect. We move anyway. Then you go internal. Before input, you create output. You decide who you are today. You remind yourself of what you're building. You write, you breathe, you repeat the standard. You declare it out loud, not because it's magical, but because it's structural. You are building direction. You are locking in the intention. You are reinforcing the identity. You don't guess. You don't hope. You choose. That's the difference. That's the win. When most people are floating into the day, you are walking into it like it belongs to you, like it owes you something, like you are here to extract value from every hour because you are. This isn't about being a morning person. It's about being a leader. And a leader doesn't drift. A leader doesn't wander into the day without a strategy. A leader owns the first hour, so the rest of the hours fall in line. That's how momentum is built. Not with hype, with structure, with clarity, with follow-through. You design the morning. It doesn't design you. You wake up and move your body. Not because it's fun, but because motion resets the brain. You don't need to crush a workout. You just need to signal movement, that we are alive, that we are here to execute, that we do not coast. Then you get clear on the mission. What gets done today? Not what would be nice. What gets done? Non-negotiables, high value, tied to the vision. Most people create to-do lists that are just escape plans. Busy work, disguises, noise. You don't do that. You choose impact. You choose decisions that move your future closer. And once you've done that, you win the day before the rest of the world even wakes up. Because now your system is calibrated. Your attention is set. Your identity is engaged. You are no longer waiting for things to happen. You're making them happen. You don't rush. You don't drift. You lead. You move. You dominate your energy. And if the rest of the day hits you sideways, you're ready. Because your morning was structured. Because your nervous system was grounded. Because you weren't reacting to the world. You were commanding yourself. That's the first rule. Own the morning. It's not optional. It's not sometimes. It's daily. Because if you don't take control in the beginning, the rest of the day is just damage control. And you weren't built for damage control. You were built to lead. The second rule to win every day is this. Dominate your first hard decision. Every single day there's a moment, early, quiet, subtle, where resistance shows up. That tension in your chest when it's time to begin. That friction between what you want long-term and what feels easier right now. And how you respond to that moment will determine the entire tone of your day. Most people hesitate. They stall. They delay. They negotiate with it. Maybe in 5 minutes, maybe after I check this, maybe once I feel ready. But every second you hesitate, resistance gains power. Every second you wait, doubt grows louder. And every second you delay, you reinforce the habit of hesitation. But if you want to win the day, you flip that script. You train yourself to hunt for that hard decision, to move toward it, to get to it early, and to dominate it with speed and certainty, not because it's convenient, but because it's foundational. That first hard decision is not a detail. It's the hinge that swings the whole door. It could be the workout. It could be sitting down to do focused work. It could be the phone call you don't want to make. The writing, the studying, the thing you know matters, but that your body is resisting. That's the one. That's the dragon. And the rule is simple. Slay it first. No debate, no drama, no delay. Because when you slay it, you send a signal to your mind that you are not run by comfort. You are not directed by emotion. You are not governed by the easy road. You are here to lead. You are here to move. You are here to execute. And that signal becomes momentum. You want confidence? Do the thing you're avoiding. You want discipline? Take action before you feel ready. You want clarity? Get moving while everyone else is still stalling. That's the code. That's the advantage. Not intensity, speed. Speed over hesitation. Movement over emotion. And this isn't about crushing yourself. It's not about perfection. It's about breaking the pattern of delay. You don't need to be at 100%. You just need to make the first move. Once you begin, momentum does the rest. Once you start, doubt begins to die. Once you go, your nervous system settles into motion. You make it a rule. I don't wait. I don't stall. I do what needs to be done, especially when I don't feel like it. That's my identity now. I don't live at the mercy of my moods. I live at the level of my standard. Because if you let emotion decide, it will always vote for comfort. Always. That's why this is a rule, not a preference, not a suggestion, a rule. You win the first battle. You walk into resistance and you choose power, not comfort, not ease, power. You build this habit daily. It doesn't have to be massive, but it has to be clear. You identify the resistance early. You spot the avoidance and you act fast before the feeling changes, before the excuses show up, before your mind has a chance to seduce you with comfort. And when you do it enough, your body starts to expect it. The hesitation gets smaller. The gap between decision and action begins to collapse. And that's when you know you're dangerous. Because now, action is the default. Now, motion is normal. Now, starting is what you do. This changes everything. Because the hardest part is always the beginning. And if you start strong, everything else is easier. If you start fast, you build rhythm. If you start with courage, your entire mindset shifts. So you make it a non-negotiable. Rule 2, dominate the first hard decision. Identify it early, attack it quickly. And don't ever let yourself walk past it. Because the moment you start avoiding that decision is the moment you start losing the day. And you don't lose days anymore. Not when you know the cost. Not when you know the signal. Not when you've already decided who you are. The third rule to win every day is protect your focus like your future depends on it. Because it does. Focus is not just a productivity tool. It is not just about efficiency. Focus is identity. It's your ability to direct your energy, your attention, your decision-making into something that matters without breaking, without leaking, without fracturing into pieces every time the world knocks. You don't get what you want. You get what you focus on. You don't live the life you dream of. You live the one your attention allows. If you're scattered, if you're pulled, if you're interrupted every 5 minutes, you cannot expect to build anything great. You are divided. And divided people don't lead, they don't create, they don't sustain, they chase, they stall, they fumble. Most people never win the day because they never win a single hour. They move from task to task, thought to thought. They don't stay anywhere long enough to build traction, long enough to enter flow, long enough to access depth. And depth is where breakthroughs live. You train your focus the way you train strength, in reps, with boundaries, through resistance. It doesn't just happen, it is built. And it begins with decisions. What do I allow into my space? What steals my attention? What strengthens my attention? Where does my energy leak? And what am I willing to do about it? You start protecting your space like it's sacred, because it is. Your mental bandwidth is not infinite. You only have so many decisions in a day, so much clarity, so much energy. And if you give that away casually, it's gone. And when it's gone, you're vulnerable to distraction, to doubt, to noise. You silence the distractions. You walk away from small talk that's just spinning in circles. You build walls around your deep work. You enter it like a ritual. You sit down with a mission. You guard the space like it's a war zone, because it is. And then you build time blocks, focused, undistracted. You don't ask your mind to switch every few minutes. You let it sink in. You give it time to ramp, because the best work doesn't happen in the first 5 minutes. It happens after the warm-up, after the discomfort, after the brain shifts into alignment. You're not just working, you're building. You're training your brain to stay somewhere, to stay with a task, to stay with a challenge, to stay with a problem without running to escape it. That staying power is what separates amateurs from pros. That staying power is what turns ideas into results. And you build it one block at a time. 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 90 minutes. Whatever it is, you set it, you honor it, you defend it. Not once, every day. Because this is not just about a productive moment. This is about becoming a focused person. Because when your focus is clean, everything accelerates. You make faster decisions. You hear yourself think. You eliminate waste. Your work is sharper. Your confidence is higher. Because now your energy is aligned. It's not bleeding everywhere. It's pointed. And in a world that's addicted to interruption, focus is your superpower. It makes you dangerous. While everyone else is switching channels, you are finishing. While everyone else is scanning, you are solving. While everyone else is reactive, you are intentional. But that edge doesn't last on its own. You have to protect it. Every day, you wake up and recommit. Because the world is built to distract you. The systems are built to hijack you. The platforms are built to addict you. And if you don't opt out, if you don't decide, you will default to distraction. So you make this a rule, not an idea, a rule. You don't let randomness steal your bandwidth. You don't allow interruptions to run your schedule. You don't say yes to everything just because you can. You say yes to focus, to priority, to the vision, and that means saying no to everything else. Focus is not just what you do, it's what you eliminate. It's not just the work you choose, it's the noise you silence. And once you make that a way of life, your results begin to speak differently. Your reputation changes. Your standard becomes visible. And people will ask, how are you so dialed in? How do you get so much done? And the answer is simple. I don't let the world decide what I think about. I've taken control. That is rule 3. Protect your focus. Don't wait until it's convenient. Don't do it occasionally. Build a life around it. The 4th rule to win every day is this: stop negotiating with your excuses. Every day, at some point, your mind will give you an out, a story, a reason, a backdoor to escape responsibility. And it will sound rational, it will sound convincing, it will feel like self-care, like logic, but it's not. It's the old version of you trying to survive inside the new one. You have to understand this. Your excuses are not random. They are rehearsed, conditioned, well-practiced lines from a script your nervous system wrote years ago to protect you from discomfort. And now every time you try to raise your standard, that script shows up to keep you safe, to keep you small, to keep you from changing. But you're not here for safety. You're not here for comfort. You're here to build. And building requires sacrifice, not just of time or energy, but of lies. You have to be willing to sacrifice the stories that used to work. You have to be willing to betray the part of you that still wants to stay average. That begins with this rule. No negotiations, no entertaining the excuse, no talking it out, no weighing the pros and cons of quitting, no giving it oxygen. The second you hear it, you shut it down. You don't argue with it. You don't indulge it. You replace it with action immediately. Because here's what most people don't realize. The more you entertain the excuse, the stronger it gets. Every time you pause to consider it, you are feeding it. You are telling your brain, this might be valid. And if it thinks it's valid, it will build a case. And once that case is built, your discipline is already out the door. You can't let that happen. So you build a system. You create a language that interrupts the pattern. One phrase, one command. Not today. I don't negotiate with my feelings. That's not who I am anymore. You pick the words that fit your edge, and you say them like you mean it. Because excuses only survive in ambiguity. They survive when your identity is soft, when your standards are loose. But when you decide, fully decide, what your rules are, your mind adapts. The excuses get quieter. The delay gets shorter. The gap between decision and action begins to collapse. This is where the real shift happens, not when life gets easier, but when you stop entertaining the patterns that used to run you, when you stop feeding the loop, when you stop acting like your emotions get a vote in your execution. You will still feel the resistance. You will still hear the old lines. You're tired. You've done enough. Just do it later. You don't feel ready. But instead of debating, you act. You act like someone who does what needs to be done, because that's who you are now, not just in theory, in practice. And once that becomes your new default, everything changes. You become faster, clearer, harder to shake. People notice. They feel it. They watch you do the things they talk themselves out of. They watch you push when they would have paused. They watch you lead when they would have delayed. And they wonder how. And the answer is not talent. It's not personality. It's a simple rule. You stopped negotiating. You drew the line. You wrote a new contract with yourself, one that doesn't leave room for soft decisions, one that doesn't allow you to rewrite the plan when the mood changes. You don't wait to feel like it. You don't need more time. You don't ask for permission. You follow through. Because discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being predictable. It's about being someone you can trust. And trust is built in those quiet moments when no one else is watching. But you choose strength anyway. That's what this rule is about. Cutting off the escape route. Refusing to entertain the narrative. Showing up even when it would be easy not to. Especially when it would be easy not to. Because that's when it counts the most. That's when you're separating. So the next time your excuse shows up, and it will, you don't pause. You don't think. You move immediately, decisively. Like someone who has already decided what this day is going to be. Like someone who is no longer interested in living at the level of compromise. That's rule 4. No negotiations. It's not up for debate. Not anymore. Because your future is not built in emotion. It's built in execution. The fifth rule to win every day is this: build completion momentum. Most people walk around with open loops, unfinished tasks, vague plans, halfway commitments, things they said they'd do but never started, or started but never finished. And every one of those open loops drains energy. Every one of them leaks power because your brain keeps track. Your nervous system remembers. And the more incomplete you are, the heavier you feel. You don't need more to do. You need more things finished, closed, executed, complete. Because completion creates clarity. Completion creates confidence. Completion is proof that you are who you say you are. Not someone who just starts, not someone who just talks, someone who follows through, someone who finishes. This is what separates the high performers from the ones who stay stuck in motion. The ability to decide, act, and finish. Not perfectly, not elegantly, but completely. Because unfinished is a weight, and you cannot run at full speed while dragging anchors behind you. You make this a daily priority. You scan your environment for open loops, the emails unsent, the decision you've been avoiding, the errand you keep moving to the next list, the task you've delayed for no reason, and you attack them, one by one, quickly, without emotion. You're not waiting for the perfect time. You're not waiting until it's urgent. You clear it, you close it, you move on. Not because the task is glamorous, but because clearing the clutter makes you sharper, frees your mind, rebuilds your power. This is the opposite of procrastination. Procrastination feels like relief, but it's not. It's debt, mental debt, emotional debt, execution debt. And the longer it sits there, the more it compounds, the more it drains you, the more it feeds the identity that says, I don't finish what I start. But when you start stacking completions, fast, focused, decisive, you change that story. You begin to see yourself as someone who closes the loop, who doesn't leave things undone, who doesn't leave decisions floating in the air. You make the call, you send the email, you write the draft, you hit publish. Because action beats anxiety, movement beats overthinking, completion beats chaos, always. And the more completions you stack, the more your confidence builds. Not because of how big the tasks are, but because of how consistent you are. It doesn't matter how long, you carve the time. You go in with one goal: close loops, no distractions, no side projects, one by one. Done, done, done. That rhythm builds something deep inside you, something most people never feel. That click, that groove, that clarity. And once you feel it, you want more, because it's clean, because it's powerful, because now your attention is no longer divided. You're not pulled in 10 directions. You're not avoiding anything. You are current. You are clear. You are available to go deep into what matters. This doesn't mean you never have long projects. It doesn't mean everything finishes in a day, but even big goals can be broken down into chunks, into wins, into pieces you can finish today. Because finishing is a muscle, and the more you train it, the more unstoppable you become. You don't want a wall of half-built progress. You want a path of completed steps. You want to look behind you and see action, evidence, momentum, not ideas, not good intentions, not half-hearted attempts. Finished work, real progress, tangible movement. And the people around you, they notice. Because most people are unreliable. They say yes and never show up. They talk big and deliver small. But you're different. You do what you say. You finish what you start. You follow through, even when no one is watching. That kind of reputation, that kind of consistency, it compounds in your business, in your body, in your relationships, in your own self-trust. Because now you've removed the drag. Now you've eliminated the static. Now your energy is clean. So that's the rule. Build completion momentum every day. Identify the open loops. Close them. Small, fast, focused. Train yourself to finish. Not perfectly, not forever, but fully. Enough to move. Enough to lighten the load. Enough to reinforce the identity that says, I don't leave things undone. The sixth rule to win every day is train before you perform. Most people start their day in performance mode. They wake up and immediately step onto the field of life, expecting to execute, to solve, to produce, to lead, without ever warming up. And then they wonder why their decisions are off, their focus is scattered, their emotions are fragile. They skip the most important part, preparation. You don't show up cold and expect to dominate. You train every day. Not just your body, your mind, your state, your nervous system. Because if you don't train it intentionally, it will be trained accidentally by stress, by urgency, by distraction, by noise. And those things do not build performance. They drain it. You need to carve out space every morning to train before you play. You don't roll into your tasks without getting centered, without clearing the static, without reminding your system who's in charge. This isn't about having more time. This is about taking control of your energy before anything external gets a vote. That training doesn't have to be complex. It has to be yours. It could be movement, breath work, reading, writing, visualization, anything that signals to your brain, we are not reacting. We are building that transition matters. That shift in state is what prepares you to go from emotional to intentional, from scattered to locked in. You don't wait for the day to warm you up. You warm yourself up. You get into position. You calibrate your thoughts. You remind yourself of your standards. You get your blood moving. You break the grip of sleep, of comfort, of mental noise. And you rise into the version of you that's here to execute. You build rituals around this, non-negotiables, anchors, and you don't skip them just because the day is busy, especially not then, because the busier the day, the more valuable the training. The more pressure you're under, the more important it becomes to begin from strength, not reaction. This is how professionals separate themselves. They don't just show up and hope. They prepare every day. The repetition, the alignment, the return to focus. It's not about motivation. It's about conditioning. And when it becomes automatic, you move into every task already in rhythm, already dialed in, already present. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 60. That's not the point. The point is that you never skip the inner work, the sharpening, the adjustment, the reset. You do it daily, relentlessly, quietly, and it makes you lethal. Because you're no longer showing up on accident. You're entering the day with fire, with clarity, with muscle memory. Training before performance is not a luxury. It's not a bonus. It's a requirement. The world is moving too fast. The noise is too loud. If you don't ground yourself before stepping in, you will get tossed. You will forget who you are. You will get pulled into problems that aren't yours to solve. So you build the habit. Daily mental reps, daily physical movement, daily mindset installation. You write your principles. You repeat your rules. You reset your state. And the day starts when you say it does. From power, not pressure. From presence, not panic. And when you operate like this, you stop needing motivation. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop warming up during your first task because you're already there. You trained for this, you prepared for this, and now you can perform at full capacity. This is the edge, the reps no one sees, the moments when others are snoozing and you are sharpening, not because you have to, because you've chosen to lead, because you've chosen to win, not just at the big goals, at the daily game. The seventh rule to win every day is set the standard, then raise it. Most people are waiting to be told what's expected of them, waiting for permission, waiting for someone else to define the bar. But that's not how you lead. That's not how you win. You don't operate based on what's expected. You operate based on what you demand from yourself. The standard is not a goal. It's not something you hit once. It's the baseline. It's what's normal. It's what you do when nobody's watching. It's what you do even when the world says it's good enough. And most people's standard is survival, comfort, average, good enough for now. That's why they never build anything real. You decide what your standard is, and you install it daily through your actions, through your language, through the way you show up in the smallest things. Because the small things always become the big things. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. If you're sloppy in your habits, you'll be sloppy in your vision. If you cut corners when no one sees, you'll break under pressure when it counts. So you set the standard, and then you raise it. You decide that the version of you from last month isn't good enough anymore. You outgrow your own behavior. You upgrade your discipline. You audit your patterns, not from shame, but from power, because you know you've got more, and you're not waiting for a crisis to prove it. This is where most people plateau. They get some momentum. They start seeing results, and they ease off. They start coasting, and they start slipping, because they mistake progress for permission to relax. But if you want to win every day, you don't coast on what you've done. You show up with the hunger of someone who hasn't done anything yet. And that hunger isn't desperation, it's clarity. It's knowing that growth is not a moment. It's a way of life. It's a choice to keep pressing, to keep evolving, to never let the fire go out. Not for a day, not for an hour, not for a moment. Because once your standard slips, it's hard to get it back. You protect it, you reinforce it, you speak it, you act it, and most importantly, you model it. You become the standard, not just for yourself, but for others. Because the moment you raise your own baseline, people feel it. They adjust to meet you, or they fall off. Either way, you keep rising. You make it visible. In your tone, in your work, in your walk. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to explain it. You just live it. And it speaks for you. It tells the room, I'm not here to blend in. I'm not here to match energy. I'm here to raise it. And when you do that, every single day you become unshakable. You stop being pulled into other people's chaos. You stop being rattled by the noise because your standard is internal. It doesn't bend for circumstances. It doesn't drop because you're tired. It doesn't shift based on how the world feels. And when you hold that line, especially on the hard days, you separate, not because you're better, but because you've decided that good enough isn't for you, that just okay is a trap, that what used to be impressive is now unacceptable. And that mindset, that way of living, it makes you powerful. It makes you magnetic. It makes you rare. Because while everyone else is trying to meet expectations, you are setting them. While everyone else is reacting, you are creating. While everyone else is trying to keep up, you are pulling ahead. So write your standard, speak your standard, and live it relentlessly. Don't break it for convenience. Don't adjust it for approval. Don't lower it for anyone. If they can't rise with you, they're not meant to be in the room. And if the world doesn't understand it, that's fine. It wasn't built for the world. It was built for you. The 8th rule to win every day is this: finish what you start, not when it's convenient, not when you feel like it, every time. Because consistency doesn't mean doing something forever. It means doing what you said you would do until it's done. No loose ends, no almosts, no 80%, and then disappearing. Finish, lock it in, close the loop. This is where most people break. Not at the beginning. Starting is easy. Starting feels exciting. It's fresh. It's full of possibility. But halfway in, when the energy dips, when the work gets repetitive, when the spark fades, that's where the majority disappear. That's where momentum dies. Not because they weren't capable, but because they didn't finish. Finishing is a decision, a commitment to push through the middle, through the doubt, through the drag, through the urge to pivot, through the impulse to chase something new. Everyone says they want to be a finisher, but most people never train it. They build habits around quitting, around chasing novelty, around doing just enough to feel like they tried. You don't live that way anymore. You don't leave things halfway built. You don't stop when it gets uncomfortable. You see it through, because it's not about how it feels. It's about who you're becoming. And the version of you who wins every day, they finish, period. You build this with intention. You look at your schedule, your goals, your to-do list, and you hunt for open loops, projects that need to be closed, conversations that need to be completed, work that needs to be submitted, calls that need to be made. You find them, you finish them. You don't wait for the right mood. You don't need ideal conditions. You need a rule, and the rule is simple. Once I start, I finish. Unless it no longer serves my mission, then I kill it with intention. But I do not leave it in limbo, because limbo is energy drain. It's friction, it's weight, and it compounds. Finishing is not about going fast. It's about going all the way, one task at a time, one brick at a time, no multitasking, no scattered attention, just focused execution, from open to done, from beginning to locked. And when you live like this, everything shifts. You become known as someone who delivers, who follows through, who doesn't vanish when it gets tough. That reputation becomes power, not just with others, but with yourself. Because every time you finish, you strengthen your identity. You stop being surprised by your own consistency. You stop wondering if you'll follow through. You just know, because you've done it over and over, until finishing is no longer a challenge. It's a way of life. This applies to everything, the small things, the big things. You write the email. You return the message. You clean up after yourself. You keep your word, not because anyone's watching, because you are. And every moment you act in integrity, you build a deeper kind of strength. And when the big goals show up, you're ready. Not because you're suddenly more talented, but because you've trained the muscle, the repetition, the refusal to quit, the capacity to keep showing up until the thing is done. This is not just about work. This is about how you operate, how you live, how you carry yourself. You are not someone who leaves the job half done. You are someone who follows through, especially when it gets hard, especially when no one's watching, especially when you don't feel like it. Because that's when it matters. That's where separation lives. That's where the real identity is built. Not in the beginning, but in the finish. Not in the plan, but in the execution. Not in the idea, but in the follow-through. The ninth rule to win every day is this: move your body with purpose, not when it's convenient. Not just when you're training, every single day. You are not just a mind trying to stay sharp. You are a full system. And if your body is neglected, your energy will be fractured. If your body is stagnant, your mind will follow. This isn't about aesthetics. It's not about six-pack abs. It's not about performance metrics. It's about state control. Your body is the fastest path to changing your state. You want to shift from stress to clarity? Move. You want to shift from anxiety to confidence? Move. You want to shift from hesitation to aggression? Move. Because motion is what breaks mental loops. Most people live from the neck up, disconnected, tight, tense, sedentary. They sit all day, watch all day, tense their jaw, their shoulders, their breath, and then wonder why they can't think clearly, why they can't focus, why they're overwhelmed by the smallest pressure. They forgot they have a body. But when you move, when you walk, when you train, when you breathe, you shake the rust off. You turn the power back on. You don't just get blood flowing, you get belief flowing. You send a signal. We're not stuck. We're not soft. We're here, and we're not asking for permission. You don't wait to feel ready. You move first. Because motion creates energy, and energy creates clarity. And clarity makes decision-making easier. That's why it's a rule, because it's a shortcut to momentum, a way to prime your physiology for focus, for presence, for execution. You train daily, not for the body, for the mind. You show up to the reps. You don't negotiate. You don't wonder if you'll do it today. It's automatic. It's non-negotiable. It's part of your operating system. Just like brushing your teeth, just like locking in your first win, you move, period. Some days, that means lifting heavy. Some days, it means a walk. Some days, it means stretching with music on. It's not about intensity. It's about frequency. It's about consistency. It's about motion over stillness. Because stillness for too long becomes stagnation, and stagnation becomes self-doubt. You use movement to shift state, to reconnect to your breath, to remind yourself that the stress you feel is not permanent, that tension in your shoulders, it's not your identity, that mental loop you're stuck in. It can be broken with 30 minutes of sweat, of breath, of movement. And the bonus, you get stronger. You start walking different, speaking different. You start carrying yourself like someone who keeps promises, like someone who has structure, like someone who doesn't wait for the mood. They move regardless. And that energy becomes your new normal. Your body is not an accessory. It's your amplifier. And if it's not conditioned, if it's not activated, it cannot support the weight of your vision. You can be sharp for a while, but the breakdown will come. Fatigue will come. Decision fatigue. Emotional fatigue. And if your body isn't trained, you won't be able to carry yourself through it. That's why this rule matters. Because when everything else is loud, your body can anchor you. When you're overwhelmed, movement resets you. When your mind wants to quit, your body can carry you through because you trained it to. This is not optional. This is not extra. It is essential. You move daily. You train daily. You lead with energy, not exhaustion. And if something feels off in your world, move before you solve, before you plan, before you call, before you react. Move, reset, breathe, get under tension, and watch what shifts. This is how you stay sharp, how you stay consistent, how you keep the edge when others are spiraling. You move like it's sacred, like it's who you are, because it is. The 10th rule to win every day is finish strong, no matter how the day started. You don't need a perfect morning to own the rest of the day. You don't need ideal conditions to close the gap between where you are and what still needs to get done. What you need is the discipline to end the day with intention, with focus, with fire. Most people let the beginning of their day dictate the ending. If it started rough, they carry that energy. If they slipped, they spiral. If they got behind, they stop trying. They throw the rest of the day away like it doesn't count. But it counts. It all counts. The day's not over until you say it is. You don't quit just because the first half didn't go how you planned. You regroup, you breathe, you recalibrate. You say, okay, that happened. Now what needs to get done? You don't live in the past. You don't replay your missteps. You recover fast, you take ownership, and you finish. Because strong finishers build strong lives. Anyone can start with energy. Anyone can show up when it feels good. But the ones who lead, the ones who separate, the ones who rise again and again, they are the ones who finish. Not once in a while, daily. You don't coast into the end of your day. You drive, you re-engage, you look at your commitments, you check your list. You ask yourself, what are the one or two things I still need to do to feel proud when I close my eyes tonight? Then you do them. No debate, no delay. Just finish. This creates emotional momentum. When you know the day didn't go perfectly, but you still chose to lead. When you know you slipped, but you didn't fold. When you know you didn't let comfort win the second half. That feeling, that's power. That's identity reinforcement. Because you're no longer someone who's only consistent when the conditions are perfect. You're someone who fights through mess, through chaos, through distraction. You know how to recover. You know how to shift. And you train that every day. This is the habit that builds trust. When you close the day with clarity, when you don't leave things floating, when you prepare for tomorrow like a professional, you're not scrambling in the morning. You're not playing catch up. You've already positioned yourself, already anchored the next win. You create an evening rhythm. You reset your space. You review your day honestly, without emotion. You learn from it. You extract the data. You apply it. You identify what worked and what didn't. Not to judge yourself, but to sharpen. You're an operator. And operators improve daily. Then you wind down on purpose. You don't crash. You close with intention. You don't numb yourself with noise. You create quiet. You build stillness. You allow your mind to recover, to process, to integrate. Because tomorrow's win starts with tonight's reset. This habit builds consistency. It builds reflection. It builds pattern recognition. It makes your days more than a blur. They become a sequence, a rhythm, a body of work. You begin stacking wins not by accident, but by design. And when people ask why you're so sharp, so clear, so ready, it's because you don't let one rough moment destroy an entire day. Because you recover faster. Because you lead yourself with precision, not permission. Because you close the day like a pro. This is the rule. Finish strong, always. No matter how the day started, no matter what happened in the middle, you lead yourself back. You return to center. You take ownership, and you close it out with focus, integrity, and zero hesitation. You don't need a perfect life to win. You don't need perfect conditions, perfect motivation, or a flawless plan. What you need is a decision, a standard, and the discipline to enforce it daily. Because winning is not an event. It's a rhythm. It's how you move through your hours. It's how you show up for yourself, not once in a while, but every single day. You've got 10 rules now, 10 anchors, 10 commands to bring you back to who you really are when the noise gets loud, when the world gets busy, when pressure hits. And none of them are complicated. But every single one of them is a choice, a standard, a line that you draw and refuse to cross. You start your day with clarity. You lead with intention. You dominate your first hard move. You protect your focus. You execute without negotiation. You complete what you start. You train before you perform. You move your body with purpose. You raise your standard and you live like it. And when the day tries to get away from you, you pull it back and finish strong. That's how you win, not once, but repeatedly. That's how you build trust in yourself. That's how you compound confidence. That's how you stop being surprised by your own success, because your behavior earned it. Your repetition earned it. Your daily rhythm earned it. Most people talk about high performance like it's some elite status, but it's not. It's not for the lucky or the chosen or the gifted. It's for the ones who choose it, who install it, who commit to the process even when it's quiet, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one's applauding. And the people around you, they'll notice. They'll ask what changed, why you're so sharp, why your results keep coming, why your energy is different. And you'll know it's not magic. It's structure. It's rhythm. It's non-negotiables. So you wake up tomorrow and run it back. No guessing, no hoping, no wondering if you'll feel like it. You've got the rules. You've got the system. You just follow it relentlessly, without emotion, like someone who doesn't need perfect days to keep stacking wins, like someone who leads their life instead of surviving it. That's the path now. Clear, grounded, unshakable. Because the rules don't change when the mood does. The standard doesn't drop when the pressure rises. You don't flinch when it gets uncomfortable. You execute, you lead, you win.